as the coup response sort of wanes in the United States, begrudgingly for the Democrats, of course, I want to talk about the COVID response in Panama from a outsider's view. I already discussed the coup response in Ecuador. I lived there for 3 years, and I was inundated for the last year I was there. I lived it, and back in the United States now, obviously since December, and went to Panama to visit some extended family members, and just want to go over what I experienced as an outsider traveling on vacation to another country during these trying times, if you will. First off, before you go into Panama, you have to get a COVID test to make sure you're negative. Since I've already been vaccinated, didn't see the point in that, but of course, not every country in the world has been either vaccinated or is actually, going through the process of actually getting their people vaccinated or dealing with it in any sort of common sense way. But having said that, I got tested, blah, 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 negative, of course. And then you go to the airport, and of course, when you go to the airport, everyone's got to wear a stupid face diaper because for whatever reason, a potato keeps seeking that we need to keep doing this, which is stupid, obviously. And of course, when you fly in the plane, you got to wear a face mask, stupidly, of course. And of course, when you're eating or drinking, you don't have to wear it. So apparently, the virus isn't around anyone when you take that diaper off your face. But when you put the diaper back in your face, the virus is more dangerous, I guess. I don't know. Even to this day, I don't even understand. But having said that, before you get into the country, you were supposed to go into this website and sort of like declare that, like through basically what they call an affidavit, that you're not sick. They never asked for it when I went through immigration. Going through immigration was usually when you go into Panama from the United States, it takes very little time. They go through your passport, stamp it, and send you on your way. That's it. However, this time, it was long and arduous. They were just going through all this crap. My wife brought along our vaccination cards. Even though they never said they were going to look at it, but since we had it, they took it and said, okay, fine, you're good to go. And they sent us on the way. Didn't even ask for our affidavit that you had to go online to prove that, you did this. Whatever the case may be, it was just weird that, this is usually indicative of most countries in Central and South America where they ask you to do something. Upon arrival, they don't ask you for it, which is, it is what it is, whatever. But my wife said that she was told that everyone had to wear a face shield. Yes, folks, boys and girls in Lazaland, you had to wear a face shield and a mask there in Panama. That's what was told to me. I didn't want to go because I was like, that's ridiculous. But I was like, whatever. But once we got into the airport and got through immigration, now the people there were wearing a face shield as far as the workers there, the immigration officers or people behind the desk, behind the 14-foot tall plexiglass shield. Okay. So you go and get your bags after you get out of immigration, and then you got to pass them through a scanner again. Whatever. They didn't do anything because I don't know what they're looking for, but every time I've gone into Panama in the last 20 years, pretty much every year up until last year, they had to scan your crap. They scanned it, whatever. But here goes on to the more, I guess, the personal side of this. So the Panamanian government, as far as when I compare to Ecuador's response to it, Ecuador, in my opinion, basically gets like a B plus, A minus. They don't have much means to do anything. They've locked down after I've left a few different times. But for the most part, the people there didn't necessarily freak out. Of course, when you got the internet, people telling you this, that, and the other thing, people do sort of freak out a little bit as far as the virus is concerned. But once you got on the outside, most people, I'd say 80% of the people weren't wearing face shields. They were wearing a face mask in a very humid environment. By the way, folks, boys and girls, is uncomfortable as completely uncomfortable. Not the most fun thing in the world to do. It was a chore for me to wear, and I just wanted to get to my house there, so I didn't have to put the stupid shit on my face. But going on, my extended family members, well, one of them was a little more freaked out about all of this. She didn't even want to get out of the car and greet us, and she actually didn't. We met in the parking lot there, and she basically stayed in her car. You know, we talked a little bit, and then she left. Again, this is an older person. It was kind of weird, but okay, I get it. They're old. They're sort of vaccine hesitant, which is fine and completely 100%. That's fine with them. So, we get our car, and we drive all the way to my house outside the city, about an hour and a half. Get there, go to the grocery store. There's no long lines or anything like that. The grocery stores are well stocked. A lot of construction still, even to this day, that's going on. Even while we were there, we had some another section roof put on, some rain gutters, because materials are more expensive, obviously. But construction is going on, businesses as usual. Again, most people just wore their mask. You know, there wasn't like here in the United States where people were like, F you, and this kind of just didn't do it. There, I didn't see any cops harassing anyone not wearing it, but everyone just sort of just did it. Cops never, as far as I've seen, harassed anybody or, got into their face like they did in Canada. The cops were just there to kind of like, this is ridiculous, whatever. I didn't notice anything like that. They pretty much stayed out of everyone's business, unless you're speeding, of course, and down the highway. Then we drove out towards David, which is about 5 hours away from the house I was at. And there was one point before you get close to the Costa Rican border where there's a kind of like not necessarily a border checkpoint. Still really have in the United States, like 100 miles north of the border. There's like just sort of like a border checkpoint, I guess, if you will. And they check your passport, and sometimes they don't hassle you. They say, okay, you're American, okay, great, bye. They don't mess with anybody. Get to David. We stayed there like 5 days. Hotter than the sun. Then we drove back towards Santiago for something, and my sister-in-law, she got, actually, all three of us, my son, my wife, and I, they checked our passports coming back through. They're like, so okay, great. Oh, you got the vaccine, cool, whatever. What about the lady in the back? You need to get a test. So she actually had to get out of the car, get a COVID test on the side of the road, and then we were left to go. It wasn't a big hassle, coming from the simple fact that, again, I'm a guest in this country. It wasn't too much of a heartache. You can't exactly just go, I have my rights as American. You can't. You just don't do that, because you don't. Did our thing, and then drove back to David, stayed an extra couple days, and then drove all the way back. No problems there. Went into the city a couple times, Panama City, and what I've noticed there is that kind of like what's going on in the United States, where there's a lot of job openings, but not a lot of people working. It's kind of a weird sort of thing where you got a huge potential workforce not working, and you got all these jobs out there not being fulfilled. So when you go to a restaurant, a lot of the staff is short-staffed. But again, there's not any food shortages. Things are a little more expensive. Excuse me. What I did find out, or I did find interesting, is that eating out at restaurants is a lot cheaper than buying food at a grocery store. It kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. I kind of saw this in like the early 2000s in Panama, where at the time it was a lot cheaper to go out and eat, pretty much like at, let's say, I'd say lunch and dinner, than it was to have dinner at home. For the most, depending on what you eat, of course. But before we left, he had to take another COVID test like a day before, and we got the results back within an hour. I'm not sure what the validity of those tests are, but whatever. Going through customs, again, not a big deal. Actually, no problem whatsoever. Again, everyone's short-staffed in the airport, especially when we stayed one night in a hotel the day before we left. The hotel was running at a quarter capacity of their staff, which is nuts. And go through the airport, go through customs. They just look at your passport and say fine, stamp it, and let you go. In Panama, by the way, which I find interesting, and this has been going on for years, is that you go through security, they scan all your crap, but if you're going through the United States, they scan your crap again, and you go through a metal detector again before you get on the plane. So you do it twice, which is stupid, doesn't make any sense. You don't do that in Ecuador. They sort of they maybe do perhaps when you're at the airport in Quito and you go through when you go through try and get the gate, sometimes they pull you to the side or they randomly check your bags. But I had a diplomatic passport, so therefore they weren't allowed to look in your bags coming in and out of Ecuador. So they were, just because you were part of the diplomatic, even though I had a job in it, didn't have a job in the embassy, I was part of my wife was sort of worked in there, so we didn't. It applied to us as well, so they could not look in your bags. I had one time where they wanted to look at my bag, and I showed them my diplomatic passport, and they're like, "Oh, lo siento," I'm like, "Oh no," so it wasn't a big deal because, a lot of times when they look at your stuff, they don't know that you're like part of the diplomatic mission, and I just kind of showed it to them like, diplomatic passport. Oh, okay, let me lo siento, and I had to sign this one thing, so I'm a diplomat. Wasn't a diplomat, I understand. It's just I had a diplomatic passport. I'm like, I don't want to apply some sort of like status that I didn't have. So I go and did that. Going back to Panama, they scan your crap again, get on the plane, wear the stupid face mask, go back to the United States. I have a global entry, went through there, it came out, it was all fine. But as far as Panama's as a country as overall, their response to it, I sort of give them like a C+, because their government, from what I understand, is just freaking people out. And there's signs everywhere, like, wash your hands, do this, do that, don't freak out, social distance. But again, it's kind of hard when you're in Panama City. And the Panama City is pretty big, considering it looks like Miami, honestly, in my opinion. So many high-rise buildings, there's a lot of people there. You can't really social distance. It's hot there. It's the rainy season right now, so it's kind of hot. Imagine wearing a face mask, walk around a city when you got an umbrella or something like that when it's raining hard. Essentially, I give them a C+ just because, I think that their response to it is okay, but I think that their government, in my opinion, has freaked people out to the point to where everyone's afraid to do anything, and so that's basically, I just want to give my outsider's opinion of it. I didn't want to do this video while I was there in case, something happened. They go, Senor Laszlo, what is this video you did? You don't like the way we do it? We're going to kick you out. So I just sort of did that here. Again, it's just an opinion I have that I am in the United States right now. Went to Panama for about 21 days, came back, and sort of, had a couple days or day or two to kind of reflect on what happened and what my opinion on their response to the coup and the pandemic compared to like Ecuador, if you will, and even the United States. The United States, in my opinion, they get a C, but some states like Florida and Georgia and Alabama, like Florida would get an A-, essentially. Georgia maybe get a B+. But again, it's just my opinion. And if you go and travel, I guess even for vacation to a different country, this is what you got to go through. A COVID test before you go and a COVID test before you leave. And I would say that if you have been vaccinated, I would bring your vaccination cards as well. Take a picture of it, keep a copy of it, and keep a copy of your COVID, your negative test as well, just to show that just in case you get stopped by some government agent or some police officer and they start hassling you. Didn't happen in Panama, by the way, just letting you know. but if that happens to you when you go to a country, so you know what to do. So that's all I got to say.